In this episode, artist Nastio Mosquito explores the challenges of obeying artistic instincts and embracing commitment, even in the face of societal norms. Discover Nastio's unique perspective on legacy and his aspiration to be a vehicle of possibilities. It's time to dive in.
Nasir, how are you?
I'm beautiful, man. I'm happy to be here. You know, your list of guests is delicious, and I'm very happy to be part of it, particularly with another Portuguese speaker, which is rare in this field, you know. But I'm happy. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm thrilled. Once I learned that you are from Angola, I was super excited because I've been to Luanda for many years ago,
Oh,
and
sweet.
it was an incredible experience. I enjoyed tremendously, and to be able to see the culture, how a lot of Brazilian culture has been influenced by, from Angola, and being able to be there and experience that firsthand was eye opening. So I'm thrilled.
Wow, man, my heart is bubbling right now. It's very rare that you speak with somebody kind of in the international scene that actually has been, you know, to Angola and to Luanda, you know. So it's cool. What time? When were you there? What was the time frame? When was
Well, it
this?
was before I moved to the US. So I've been here for almost 20 years. So I'm
Oh, wow.
maybe, yes, early 2000, 2002, maybe three.
Oof,
So
that was an
it's,
exciting time to be in Luanda. We
yes,
just like Civil War had just ended, right?
yes. There was a lot of investment happening over there, a lot of opportunities as well. It's always good to go in those places, when you see that change, the energy. People are so excited, to be there, to be able to create something new, to be able to speak up. And it was being a teenager when I was there. It made a big impact on me, and I remember very vividly walking around and see the people being excited to what was happening.
Man, it was amazing. I was living in London at a time, you know, and I had just gotten married. I went to Luanda to check it out because after, 30 plus years of civil war, and now the national territory was officially at peace, in peace. I left to check it out. You know, I never came back. You know, it was a celebration of a glorious, undesirable divorce. That's how strong the energy of Angola was at that time. You know, all my life was planned to go in a direction. When that happened, a new path had to start because it was that exciting to be there and to be part of what was possible. Right? There
Hmm.
were a few utopias in our minds, but it was yeah, very very strong moment.
Where are you at right now? Are you back in UK or in Angola?
No, I'm speaking to you from Belgium. We're in Ghent.
All right. All right. How is what are you doing over there? That's your new. Were you based at this time?
Yes, yes. This is my official base. You know, family's here. You know, wife, kid, and all of that logistic is here. So I try to spend as much time here as I can. You know.
Excellent. We were talking a little bit behind the scenes that you have a project that you're working on in Brazil. I think for the Biennale
True.
as well. Can you
True.
kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a project. It's a little bit mad. We're calling it. We is Kalafe Palanga and myself. You know, we are calling it the Kizomba Design Museum. So it was like we are grabbing first of all the word Kizomba, right, which means party to celebrate. Né? So and Kizomba is of course known in the world as a music genre and a dance discipline as well. But me and Kalaf have the conviction that Kizomba is more than just a dance, more than just sonics, a music genre, but it's also a culture. No, that it was a genre that was fostered in the diasporas, Angolan diasporas, mainly Portugal, but also Brazil, the UK, the US, South Africa, because again of the civil war, you know, there was this dispersion of people all over the place. And Kizomba was kind of born out of the access of technology, you know, synthesizers and all of that. But there was a whole culture, a club culture, a dance culture, but it's also a family
Mm.
thing, right? Where you at the backyard, you have music playing and family comes, you break bread together. So we wanted to edify all these things that we attribute to a Kizomba attitude and to have a sense to put the word design and the word museum close to Kizomba Design Museum, because we have the conviction that Kizomba is what allows people to design a particular kind of life as an immigrant, legal or illegal. You know, Kizomba is where you nurture who you are. It's where you remember and celebrate your own community. It's where you gain the strength that is required for all the kind of struggle and humiliation of being in a new place, in a new language, in a new culture, and having the sort of the yeah, man, the strength to deal with the everyday struggle that is that. So Kizomba allows us to remember why we're fighting, why we are away from home, and the kind of attitude with which you then conduct yourself. So Kizomba has helped design what is now, for example, Portuguese society and Angolan society, and wherever you have an Angolan community, so that you understand, man, like the biggest Kizomba school today is in Beijing, is in China. You know, it is a culture that is really present all over the world. And it's a lifestyle. It's a dressing sense. It's a sense of pride. It's a sense of how you carry yourself. It's how you connect to others. And of course, in the dance and in the music, there's a lot of communal energy that is there. So we do believe that there is a memory there that must be tapped into, must be researched, must be almost edified as a financial force as well, because there is businesses that connect to this culture that allow these things to be possible, and there are ways in which we can connect different dots, and we think that Kizomba might be this vehicle. So in Sao Paulo, we're basically going to grab all this blah 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 and create a 3-day program. Right. So we're going to have music, we're going to have the dancing, but we're also going to have the thought that is behind that, the resilience that is behind that. So we have book launches, talks, 3 days, 6th, 7th, and 8th of September in Sao Paulo, you know, parallel to the Sao Paulo Biennale. That is an historic Sao Paulo Biennale, right? Because we have Black people in the curation, Black women in the curation. Lula da Silva is just back in power after the Bolsonaro years. And then there's this feeling, regardless of what your political stance is, there is this feeling that Brazil gets yet another chance to be what Brazil has indeed the potential and capacity to be, which is a world player, right? And how that communicates into the BRIC coalitions, you know? So there's a lot at stake being in Sao Paulo this September. There's a lot to nurture, there's a lot to celebrate, but there's also a lot not to wait and see, but to participate. So Kalafe Palanga and myself have this very urgent feeling that being in Brazil right now, it's important not just for Brazilian reality, not just for those that speak Portuguese in the world, but as we saw Lula exchanging vibes with Macron at the environmental summit in Paris, you know, shaking things up and having those dialogues that are important. I think it's a beautiful ambassador for the Portuguese-speaking world, not just because of their dimension, but also because of Brazil's agenda, you know? So we want to be part of that. That's what the Kizomba Design Museum is going to be nurturing, you know, at the beginning of September.
Now, correct if I'm wrong, I want to put a little bit to context over here. So Kizomba would be the equivalent of hip hop it is for African American?
That's a good bridge. Yes, that's a good bridge to make. Yes, because it does express itself as a culture, right, with different arms. So yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, okay. I was just to make sure that I understand what it is, but people that are watching can have a better understanding.
No, just to say that we're a lot sexier. Let's just say that a lot sexier. No, I'm teasing, but there it is part, the sensuality and the
Hmm.
physicality of that culture. Like the role of the body and the recognition as the body as an entity, as a relevant entity, and the relationship you have with your body and whoever you are dancing with your partner, because the dance and the music and the culture invites in this recognition from organism to organism, right? And it's also this that we think it's important to share with the world, to offer to the world. It's an invitation that we have the conviction that it has some value to give to the world, just like hip hop culture has been proving to do so, and nowadays also in a kind of financial market economy setting.
Oh no, this is all very fascinating things, but I'm curious, how did the idea came about, and how early in the conversation were did you decide like, yes, that's what we're gonna go, we're gonna move forward with this project?
I don't know. We've been speaking. I think the first time we tried to do it, we presented a possibility of the project to freeze London. There was a proposal to do something, and for some reason we couldn't go forward with it. Me and Calaf had been conspiring for years. How do we edify, the Angolan, the Cape Verdean, the Brazilian, the Mozambican, the Guinean immigrants in Portugal, right? We see people having a hand on their business, like hairdresser business, for example, right, which is very prolific, and people opening businesses of janitor businesses, right, one could call that, like cleaning and stuff like that. How can we edify these mothers and fathers that are working in construction, that are working cleaning the offices, that are working raising kids, babysitting and taking care, or like what is all this culture? How can we celebrate that existence, celebrate that availability to fight? And we kept coming to Kizomba, and finding a way to present this narrative and establish an invitation of participation, but also recognition of what it was. So I guess the past 10 years, more or less, we've been kind of
Hmm.
talking and trying to figure things out and maturing. How could we produce an invitation that can be compelling and at the same time offer a consequent format in which this edification can continue to grow and it can continue to sort of to mature, so on and off, 10 years of different conversations, different opportunities or possibilities would show up, and then we couldn't really materialize. Now, with this moment in Sao Paulo, it was kind of me and Calaf were like, okay, we got to move. We got to be in Brazil at this particular time. So that was, I think, that final nudge. And of course, we had to work a lot, both Calaf and myself, to get the money, right? Because we are financing at least 50% of what this effort requires, So we also needed to gain a little bit more muscle, not just the ideas, but the capacity to have networks or people conspiring in favor, It's a process that is not finished just yet, even though we are in August already, we have about 25 days to sort of to put the last screws on things, and everything is happening very fast. There's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm in Brazil for the gesture, because the word Kizomba, even though in Brazil the connection they have with it, it's kind of confusion, which historically we know how it got there. So,
Hmm.
but there's a relationship with the culture, with the word, and it felt like it was the right moment, right? The right political moment, the right economical moment, but also the right kind of moment that our communities are, aware of one another. And I think there is this the inevitable energy that is, how do we add value to one another in favor of the things we want to build, seems to be very present. So now we wanted to participate of this moment, and to get Kizomba there felt like was the right thing to offer.
You brought up an interesting point, because often enough when we think about an exhibition, we only really explore the idea, the concept, the artistic vision that's coming, to display. But you mentioned about that, there is a financial aspect as well. That a lot of times the artists will have to be responsible for a percentage of the cost. How do you have those conversations? I mean, how do you manage your time, not only between being the artist but also being the person that needs to quote unquote sell the idea, so the idea can come to fruition and find a space and being able to be exposed and enjoyed by the masses?
I don't know, man. Like the curve for me was a lot of the times we are so in love with our ideas. You know what I mean? And sometimes, as artists, I mean, we are in love, sometimes even obsessed by them, right? Ideas kind of hunt us down, that sometimes we forget that that's all they are. Our ideas, how do they become relevant to an investor? Why should somebody care about it? I think this is the learning curve that I've had conducting these processes, right? How does this add value to a particular brand, to a particular institution? What does this brand or institution care about? Where do our interests meet? I guess you have to compartmentalize, man, and you have to share responsibilities, right? You have to understand what are the process. For example, I don't work with a gallery, and I don't work with a publicist or a manager or stuff like that. So I kind of have been practicing compartmentalizing and sharing responsibilities with people that either you are, compensating to work for you, or are part of your investor team, right? Even as workers, producers, for example, and you give them a cut. So it's just knowing where do things start. At least for me, as long as I don't confuse the viability of an idea with the idea itself, as long as I'm not mixing those realms, everything is okay. I've been fortunate enough to have people looking at my work and saying, okay, this is useful to me. And thus I worked, and I managed to, save a little bit, and sort of, okay, I can focus on the ideas first, produce them, get them together, and then worry about communicating them and selling them. Just making sure that I understand that each process requires a different set of skills, and I should avoid doing them simultaneously. I cannot think about selling the idea when creating it, because that contaminates, right, what I do. A lot of discipline, I would say.
That would be my next question. That's perhaps, do you find yourself wondering which project to develop if there is a possibility of selling? Perhaps you're only going to work on something because you believe this is something that I can find fun, or I can find an audience. Is that something that you struggle with, or you've been able to really separate the both sides?
I've been able to separate it, man, but I guess not because I'm super intelligent or super disciplined. It's kind of how I function, I had never. I go from the premise that if this idea that I'm obsessed about exists, somebody fucking wants it. Who does want it? That's all I need to find out next. I'm not a being that is isolated, I am part of these energetic fields that are around. If there's an idea that is, messing with my mind enough, who wants this? Like, where's the need for there to be, right? Whether you are spiritual or you are scientific or whatever the hell your belief system may be, one cannot deny the physics of energy. Do you know what I mean? And if an idea is out there and there's a pool, I have to be available with finding that out. So I don't have to worry about that. If I trust that the idea is part of this energetic pool, I just have to be committed enough to identify where the need for that particular gesture is. So I focus on the idea, if I commit to it 100%, I have the confidence that there is a place for it. I just have to be available to where. I can't be so picky to where. You know what I mean? So for me, that has been proven the patterns. I work because I engage and commit to the ideas that obsess me. And I believe that that obsession is not just an inner engine. There is something that I'm sharing with people. So it is just having a kind of availability to make those ideas work wherever they want to work. I don't obsess too much if it's a museum, if it's a concert, if it's this, during my professional path, I think a lot of people, were describing this motherfucker has no focus, a CD, a photograph. What do you do? I produce ideas. I obey the idea. And then wherever that idea is going to exist, I don't have the pretension and the arrogance to assume that this idea must be here or must be there, For some people, it makes me a bit of a whore, but I'm a happy guy.
I think this is an interesting because I have had a conversation with many people here in the podcast, and a lot of times people express the creativity and the idea as almost as you just did. I mean, the artist as a vessel is the one, you're not in control. You're just expressing. It's something more, as you mentioned, mystic that we can quite put a finger on it. We don't quite understand. It's more of a feeling, an intuition thing. So what you're describing right now seems to come along with a pattern with a lot of creative artists that I've been talking to the last couple of weeks and months. And it's interesting to find a common denominator between all of you with different backgrounds, different histories, different ethnicities, but that language, the intuition, that energy of being a creative person, it's quite universal. And that for me to be an observer from here and have the opportunity to talk to you and people like you, it just make this so far more interesting and exciting for me.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. It's recognition, right? It's just us having the availability to recognize, which is not something very difficult to do, right? I think the next part is the most challenging part. Once you recognize that you are this vessel or that you are this possible instrument to these ideas or statements or positions or whatever it may be, is do you obey or not? That's where the thing gets tricky, right? Do you obey? Are you disciplined enough to trust that? And I think that's the hard part for artists and communities alike, because again, it's that part. What are we vessels of? What is that in favor of? And a lot of the times, if not most of the times, that connects to other human beings. So I, as an artist, recognize what I am, and I have the intention. It doesn't always work out, but I have the intention of making the rest of the community responsible for their own part, right? Because there is in this kind of silent or invisible agreement between the artist or the creative person and the ones that receive. There is this silent agreement, but there is one that must be there, that recognition must be there. And this is also another part sometimes that it is difficult nowadays, right? There's a lot of gates between those ideas and the need to receive them. There's a lot of systems or ways in which things become or not accessible. So, for every era, it's challenge, no?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody off camera back in the day, and somebody quoted someone or said something very interesting. Said, "What would you try to do if you knew you wouldn't fail?" Right? It's an interesting question. But and then I propose a different question: what would you do knowing you're still gonna fail? I think kind of comes back to what you're saying, because listening to some of your conversation, in your interviews for this podcast, doing the research, you say something, you referring about like, what are you willing to die for? And that's something I'm interested in. So for you, is that what you're looking for? You're willing to die for your creative expression, for your art? That's where you really should go to hell and back to be able to express yourself.
Uh, it's a way to put it. It's a way to
Mm-hmm.
put it. I don't know if I'm. The answer is yes. I suppose I hesitate, man, because it sounds a bit too honorable. You know, I don't know. I don't know
Mm.
if I recognize like to die for my creative expression.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm willing to die for life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And creative expression is part. It's an element of my life. You know, it's not what I call it. You know what I mean? When I think about it, I don't think I'm willing to die for my creative expression. I think I'm. It's perhaps important that I realize that I'm not willing to die for everything.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are certain ideas, there are certain principles, there are certain circumstances, you know, where dying does not concern me. It's not my biggest concern, you know. And sometimes it has been my creative expression. Another time is looking at a ball bouncing in a road, and man, there must be a kid that is coming after that ball. Like I gotta get that ball before there is some. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
simple as those kinds of things. I don't know. I'm willing to die on a way to somewhere, on a
Mm.
way to building something, on the way to edifying something. I think this is what excites me. You know, I wouldn't put it on the realm of creative expression. Of course, that is part of that, but I like successful living. You know, I like laughter. I like commitment. I like people that dare to express what they want to do, and for that, on the way to edify that, I'm willing to die for that. I'm willing to die for life. You know, I'm willing to die for an active presence in this realm of living. I get excited by those things. If somebody tells me that they want to build something and but dude, I like fuck this but like how,
Mm.
where, with whom. I'm willing to die for that. That tickles me. That gets me excited. You know, what do you want to do? Let's find out how. Do you know what I mean? And the only deflating thing is if you say you want that, but then you're not willing to die for it yourself. You know, so it's just a desire, and maybe it doesn't even belong to you. I don't know. Right. So those things, I think, is the best way I can answer that. I'm willing to die for the exercise of living, you know, being something that you extract success from, you extract joy, you know. Success, I don't know, it's kind of it became sort of a weird kind of a word, nah? Or we have a weird relationship with success. I connect success very simply to an intention, you know, an achieved intention, be it an athlete running his best time yet, you know, or you managing to have a piece of cake with your loved one. You know, I like that. I like people. There's that like I was talking to my wife, and she was telling me that sometimes I body shame people,
Mm.
and I said, no, it's definitely not about their body. It's about their fucking attitude. Like, do you know what I mean? They're two very different. If you see somebody that has a big build, for example, you know, and there's definitely, you look at two people that are, for example, overweight, you can look at somebody that overweight is dragging their life down. Or you can look at a person that is overweight, maybe they could be healthier, but there's a sense of they're good with whom they are and what they are, and they are navigating life with a particular kind of attitude. Those are the kinds of things, that create value within my availability for life, for living, and getting engaged with life.
Talking to someone too on the podcast, one artist, I'm not going to say names, but people can go back and watch it. She was very clear to say that she find herself self-censoring her work because we live in a such high sensitive climate in terms of, not censorship, but people getting, criticized for what they say, what they believe, who they believe. It's like you can't win, right? Getting canceled, the cancel culture. How important, I mean, I don't think that's something that you struggle with clearly, but how important is for young artists to not shy away from their own voice, even though their voice perhaps might not be what people want to hear? And how do you navigate that as well? Because as institutions and museums and galleries, they want to make sure they're representing and highlight, even the media, artists and designers and creative people that have a point of view, but not too much of a point of view, right? I think there is a
Yeah.
line over there that people don't want to cross. How do you, any kind of tips, suggestions, or recommendations, or a story that you can share, how you've been able to navigate that so the young professionals, the young people out there, creative people can kind of, have an idea or at least a concept to go by?
Be willing to die for it, man. It's as simple as that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have any other things. Like, is it something that matters, and that the foundation that you have, you can present it? Do you know what I mean? This is I guess it's not a simple answer. I don't condemn, like, I don't know, the artist
Yeah.
that was self editing or self censoring and all of that. I think you do what you think you can commit to, and what you can, you know what I mean, make sense within your life. As far as I can perceive, regardless of how media or how museums connect or disconnect from the narratives that a particular artist creates, what is important for people is to understand that it's true. You know what I mean? It's not a relationship with the truth, but it's a relationship with if it's true, wherever that perspective is coming from, is it real to you, right? Like, it is like, what is the fundamental intention of such declaration? Where is it coming from? And I think that's the most an artist can do. And then, I don't know, I think it would be tricky to give a one kind of conceptual vibe about that, because different contexts provide different opportunities. I would just say, be attentive. I think it is very important to understand what you are about, and to make sure that you leave no doubt about why. That tends to create a freedom to the what. If your why is clear. I don't know. I look, for example, man, at figures in pop culture like Andy Kaufman, for example. Right? It was for so many people so difficult to tap into his why, but at the same time, it was difficult to look at that level of commitment and think that the motherfucker was lost. Like, only very distracted people could, you know what I mean, have a relationship like that. Having said that, he was an asshole for a lot of people, and he was condemned, canceled. The opportunities were given and taken from him. He was committed to something. There are, I don't know, thousands and thousands of examples. I think we have to be willing to commit to what matters to us, because that's the only thing that matters. You know what I mean? What are you censoring in the name of? It's connected to your savings account and you have a plan. Cool. You know, as long as you know why you're doing it, and you can navigate that in your own existence with a sense of joy and of presence, do you, you know?
Do you think about legacy?
I do. I do. Hmm.
What kind of legacy? Because I mean, you were a father. You have been in this field working as an artist for a couple of years now already. You have established yourself. People know who you are. You have a vision. You have a clarity of a personality, but you also, you have representative of your culture, of your family, and that really is obvious in front of us when we get to talk to you and see what you do. So I'm wondering what going on in your mind when you think about when it's all said and done, I'm no longer here, what's going to be my legacy?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever thought about it in that way, right? And when I'm not ever here, what is my legacy? It's a challenging question. Attitude matters. I think that's yeah. There's nothing very. I was listening to the other day a definition, very simple definition of original, right? Original, it just means it is from the origin. Né? It doesn't mean freaky, new, like, or whatever these things that we connect to originality, right?
Hmm.
As So I would say that my legacy is gonna be one more. I want to be one more of those motherfuckers that added value to those who came across it. You know, I want to be a vehicle of possibilities that become opportunities. I want to be an energetic field that mm, contributes for your sense of what is possible. It is possible, you know. I think it's simple like that. It is possible is the most clear thing. It's possible for us to pursue the lives we want. It is possible to build the things we want to build if we have an attitude that serves exactly that. I want to be one more that provides a tangibility to that process. How do you do it? Do you know what I mean? I want to be able, if I use your image, when I'm no longer here and somebody looks at my trajectory, I can say, okay, how did that motherfucker do it? Like, how come, how did he live that life? How was it
Hmm.
possible? You know, how was it possible in Belgium? How was it possible in Rwanda? How was it possible in Portugal? How was it possible? How do you work with these institutions that are on these dude's CV and have no gallery? Okay, what's the ceiling of that? What was I want to be connected to one more possibility of how we can conduct our lives and allow our lives to be exactly that, ours, right? Of course, feel free to be involved and engaged with a political construct, but remember, you are not it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are this thing that happens to be in this political construct. What's the organism? What the hell is this? And and kind of this relationship with a sense of clarity. I think I'm obsessed with that because in my living experience, that adds value to people's lives. You know, for example, what is really I say in some of my work, I don't know where, and maybe if I drink too much, I might just say it and for no reason, is fuck choice. Fuck choice. Like, Jesus Christ, what do you mean? Like, choice has become one of the best partners of a market economy.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know, 25 different teas, 56 different rices, like choice. And we equate choice to freedom. You know, there's this parallel to be free is to choose. And like, whom is this serving? Is it really serving you? I'll exchange choice for recognition. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I want my legacy to be. Let's live with a sense of clarity, not certainty. That's a fucking illusion. But why not clarity? Do you know what I mean? I don't know is super clear. You know?
Yeah.
So these kinds of things matter to me. I look at my kid, you know, I want him to have the fortitude of having a relationship of recognition to what he is, you know, this love that people have with the question, who am I? You know, I prefer what. And then do you have a relationship with what you are? And do you recognize what it needs? And do you have the availability to create the capacity that is taking care of this in favor of the life or living experience you want to have? I want to be one more motherfucker that contributes for that sense of clarity. You know, that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat. I love it. That's we are on this point. Before I let you go, because this has been such a lot to digest, but I love it. I think people's gonna walk away with like, oh my god, as you just quoting yourself, this motherfucker is crazy, but I dig it.
Fair enough, man. Fair
you
enough.
I dig it what he's saying, where he's at, what he believes. I think there's so many interesting things here that we all can walk away with the affirmation and the clarity that the things that we need to go die for in a commitment. But before you go, I needed you to answer 3 questions for me, and I ask everyone who comes here at the podcast is,
Okay.
we needed to recommend us a book, okay?
Oh, wow.
A movie or a TV show. It can be your favorite or something that you recently watched that you like.
Okay.
And
Okay.
who do you think we should invite to be here at Minded Podcast next?
Man, dude. Okay. Man, okay. Let me use books. It has to be only one?
Well, no, if you have multiple.
I have there's an interesting book that I okay, no shit. It has to be 3. I'm sorry. Okay, let me give you these 3. I think they're super important. This book, The Secret Life of Plants, for me, it's almost like a Bible of sorts, you know. Again, a relationship with clarity, you know. Like we've known for a long time that plants are doing a lot more than we were taught at biology class in school. I think this book first came out in 71 or something like that. There is some scientific data and information here that we don't learn in school. The question, of course, of the sentiency or not of plants, and what it explores. There's actually a documentary which Stevie Wonder did the soundtrack to, which is super cool. So The Secret Life of Plants, and then attached like To Be a Machine. I find this interesting to get into the community that really believes and is committed to, I don't know, evolving humanity, and to become a machine. It might be one of those paths. It's a very funny, compelling way of understanding what all these people that desire to become machines and think that humanity's future is one where you don't get sick and all of those kinds of benefits. So To Be a Machine is also a cool book. And I'm sorry, this one, which I think it's a bestseller, but I think it's a great companion for some of the things that we were talking about here, which is Factfulness. Facts still matter, man. It still matter. And because at the end, the conclusion that you take from this book is that despite all the blah, blah, blah and our struggles that are real, the world is better than before. What else? Shit, I like this part. I never knew I was going to be so excited about this.
There you go. So a movie, TV show, something to watch.
Man, The last movie I saw and it touched me, and it was intense. It was called Biosphere.
Mm,
Biosphere. It's two characters. The entire film, is a production of the Duplass brothers.
okay,
Biosphere. I like that. I think that's a good one. Yeah.
excellent. And the last one, who do you think we should invite next here at the podcast?
I would say you could invite Sandra Poulsen. She's an artist. She's an Angolan artist based in London, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's the shit. It is very good to see coming from my territory. There was a time, I'm very honest, that not understanding how things were going to expand, and Sandra and her generation of artists is showing that absolutely nothing to worry about. We're going to continue to have the narratives of that particular territory on planet Earth contributing value to human life. So I would say Sandra Poulsen.
Before we started recording, we were chatting a little bit off camera for those who are listening or watching us. And you asked me, like, I didn't even know how you guys got me on your radar. And I didn't answer that question to you, but I will today. Yes. Right now, we work very hard to find people with a singular vision, people who are not afraid to speak up, people who are very committed to themselves. And you, my friend, are one of those. So I'm thrilled we managed to get you here at the Minded with us today. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And I'm very excited about the project in Brazil. I won't be there in Brazil for that, but most certainly we'll check it out. And I wish you the best with that as well.
No, thank you very much. I am a fan of your content and what you guys are building there. So it was a pleasure, man. And we'll make sure to send info your way, making sure that we are in communication, adding value to each other's lives, man.
Excellent. All right, my friend, have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Beautiful one. Thank you.
Experience the world of art, design, and culture through Minded Podcast. Engage with groundbreaking artists, visionary designers, and cultural influencers and delve into their creative processes. Minded Podcast, powered by the CDA. New episodes every Tuesday.